Hey everyone, you are watching kaushalbaatcheet. Welcome to the first episode of our first series, How Asking Questions Rightly Matters. Today we have a very good magnetic personality as our special guest for you, whose energy in developing the young minds is really infectious. Having a very good philosophical bent of mind, he has started a very good initiative called Scienceation, whose mission is to ignite the spark of scientific temperament within the students of our country. With his entrepreneurial spirit, he is currently building a deep thought AI driven pedagogical system by means of which he is trying to nurture the deep thought purposeful leaders from the students of our country. And lastly but not least, his vision is to make and empower every school of our country as a strong research oriented organization. He is the one and only one, Mr. Tarun Ayitham, the founder and CEO of Deep Thought Education Venture. So let's welcome Mr. Tarun. So yeah, good morning. Good morning, Tarun.
Morning, Shanti.
Yeah. So welcome to this first episode of Kaushal BaatCheet. So where we will discuss about the importance of asking questions, okay, in a student's life and everything related to asking questions. Fine. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, and I think it's a great idea to discuss these topics with students, and I hope it could contribute to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, let's come to the point. Okay. So Tarun means, as you know, means asking questions is a really one of the important fundamental aspect of our life, isn't it? So what do you think actually means about asking questions and why is it so fundamental in a human's life, specifically in a student's life? What do you think about it actually?
Yeah, so Shantanu, I think what sets us humans apart from the other animals is our cognition, right? So our ability to think is what sets us apart. So there are a lot of interesting things happening around us. So, and questioning is a way in which we can actually make sense of those things which are happening around us. For me, I think if you were to ask me to put it in a sentence, there are a lot of jigsaw puzzles around us, and questioning is a way through which you can make some sense and put those pieces, together, and it probably helps you find those gaps in those pieces also. So, for me, I think questioning is about forming better mental models in our mind, and those better mental models help us take better decisions. So questioning leads to better models, and better models can lead to better decisions. So that's, I think, my reason for why I think I'd like to ask a lot of questions.
Asking questions is really fundamental. Okay, whenever someone is intending to know something, isn't it? Okay, so that question is asking. Clear? Okay. So asking question is really a fundamental. So what do you think actually means how this asking question really helping us to take decision? As you said, means to take any decision, actually we need to ask something. Fine. So in your current profession, how it is helping you? Means asking questions. Yeah.
I'm here in this meeting with Shantanu, and I asked this question: what does Shantanu want to get out of this conversation? Then I form a mental picture in my mind or a mental model. Okay, Shantanu believes that there are certain ideas which are important for children. Shantanu is passionate about these ideas for children, and of the many ideas, questioning is one idea he is passionate about. So he wants to do this. So then, when it comes to my decision of okay, how do I want to talk? What do I want to talk? What do I want to share in this show? I can make those decisions. Okay, this is what he wants to give children, and this is why he wants to give this to children. So what do I know? Can I share that with him so that I can help him in bringing a transformation in children? So I ask myself some question. That question forms a mental picture in my mind in terms of what are we trying to do, and that mental picture helps me decide, okay, what do I want to talk in this conversation? So questions can help in forming that mental picture. And I'd like to add one more point. I think questioning is not just to know. I mean, a lot of times I might ask a question, and even if I don't get to know anything out of it, it's still fine because questioning triggers your mind, Questioning can form those mental models, questioning can develop conviction over something which you already know. Like, let's say I already know something. Let's say I already know that, okay, I'm supposed to give some answers to Shantanu today. But the questions can help me build more conviction that, okay, it's very important for me to share this because I'm able to contribute for an important cause. I'm not knowing anything new, but what I already know, what I already decided, I build more conviction. And if I build more conviction, you see that in my eyes, you see that in my voice. I'll be able to do a better job if I have more conviction. So I feel, as you rightly said, questioning is fundamental. And questioning is not just for knowing stuff. Questioning can be for more clarity around something which I already know. Questioning for more conviction around something which I already know. Or questioning can lead to new questions which can, help me achieve something. So questioning can help in so many different ways.
Yeah. So Tarun, means professionally you are currently running an edtech venture, fine, which is specifically designed for the students, fine. So how cushioning helps you particularly, if you can introduce, means how it is helping you to build the system for the students.
Sure. So I'd like to quote, I think it was Sergey Brin who said this. He said, I mean, you don't like wake up in the middle of the night and say, I want innovation, right? So you keep asking questions. And when you keep asking questions, that's when you sort of get ideas of what you want to be doing. For example, I ask myself a question, if I want more of research in the classroom, what is it that I want the teacher to be doing? What is it I want the student to be doing? And what is it that the student wants to be doing? What is it that the student doesn't want to be doing? Why is it that the student doesn't want to be doing this? Why is it that some students want to do it? Why is it that some students don't want to do it?
Okay.
If all students don't want to do the same thing, how do I give different things to different students who are in the same classroom learning the same thing? You see, everywhere there are a lot of questions which are coming in, and through those questions we sort of decide what features we want to be adding. Now, once we build a product, then again I want to bring in a lot of students. So I want to observe them and again ask questions which will help me understand what is the fine tuning which is required in the product. So questioning is directly linked to decision making, and maybe I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Sorry, I am interrupting you actually. So can you simplify more, means what are you actually building for our viewers, means it will educate themselves, means what you are building currently for the students.
So we are building a learning management system, or in a simple way, we're building a software which a teacher and student can use together. And this software aims at making learning happen in a research-oriented manner.
Okay.
Like how, most of the American universities are rated very high. Most Indian students, after finishing their bachelor's, they go to US for their master's. Okay. And why is it that an American degree is usually considered, to be good? Because it's research oriented. We are trying to bring that research orientation to India, and right from grade 3 onwards, so that children receive that high quality education, which happens in a research oriented manner. So we're building a software which the teacher and the students can use to learn together, so that the learning can happen in a research oriented manner. At a simple way, this is what we're doing. Yeah.
So specifically research oriented meanings framework, means what do you mean actually? Means what is exactly mean by research oriented framework?
Okay. So generally when we learn at school, the textbooks tell us what the concept is, or the textbooks tell us what the theory is, and we learn it. But imagine the child becomes an Aryabhatta, and the child is told there's no place values, there's no number system. You have to create your own number system, and the child creates the number system. So the teacher is a facilitator who's asking questions, and through the questions, the child is coming up with an own theory, and the child is presenting their own theory. So you don't cover the syllabus, but you discover the syllabus. So, right, as Noam Chomsky said, it's not about what you cover, it's about what you discover in the class. So that to me is research.
Yeah. So specifically means we can say that the ingenuity is basically treated by the asking questions, isn't it? Okay. Means specifically our smartness, whenever someone is curious, okay, to know something, so asking question is the only fundamental way to express the curiosity, isn't it?
I wouldn't
Or
say
what do
that.
you think actually?
See, I am with Shantanu. I am with you when you're talking about importance of questioning. I do believe that we need to be asking more questions than we do today. But I certainly believe questioning doesn't have a monopoly over knowledge. There are other ways, and if you think about it, most of the creative people actually get a lot of knowledge, get a lot of ideas, but they may not be asking questions.
Okay.
Sometimes intuition helps you
Yeah.
get those ideas or get those questions. So questioning is one of the many ways of learning, and it's definitely very fundamental. It's definitely very important, but questioning is not the only way.
Yeah.
Intuition is another way in which you get those ideas. But again, I wish to say questioning is important.
Yeah. How questioning actually helps you in your personal life? Means how it is pushing you throughout the provoking ideas, everything else. So how it helps you in your personal life specifically?
Okay, let me give you an example. Just yesterday, one of my colleagues told me that there's one developer, software developer in our team, who's not contributing well.
Okay.
So instead of directly passing on the judgment, I went and I just said, I've received this feedback that so and so, so and so. And then I asked, do you think you should, work on these areas? And
To that.
to the developer, I asked, do you think you should work on these areas? So then she said, I would like to know if there's a misunderstanding here. And she tried explaining. Then I said, okay, fine, let's see if you understand what the concern is. And I asked her some questions. Then I understood that basically there was a misunderstanding between both the team members.
Okay.
That this person believed that she did not know X, but she believed that she knew X. So then I asked her questions and then realized, okay, she knew X. Then I asked, then why did this guy believe that you don't know X? She said, well, there was a misunderstanding. He asked me something, but I misunderstood it to be something else. So I couldn't answer his question. So he thought I don't know it because I didn't answer his question. But in reality, there was a misunderstanding in the way he communicated the question and the way I understood the question. So a lot of times misunderstandings happen. So instead of directly going with the judgment, if you were to ask what happened, we'll probably deal with our human relationships better. We can. I'd like to, Shantanu, I'd like to quote Daniel Kahneman here, a Nobel Prize winning psychologist. He says, delay your intuition as much as possible. A lot of times we decide things through our intuition, but our intuition can be wrong. Let's say intuitively, I can believe, okay, Shantanu is a very selfish fellow, right? But because he said something. But if I delay my intuition, I'm like, no, Shantanu actually wants to do a lot of good things for children. So instead of passing on a judgment, can I ask some questions? Can I get some data? And through that, can I slowly, give it some time to form a judgment or an opinion around a person? So I think our society and the relationships we build with people can be a lot better. Life can be a lot happier and a lot sweeter if we can ask these questions and hold on to our horses before passing on judgments.
Yeah, Tarun. So Tarun, yeah, asking question really matters, fine, and it is fundamental, fine. But I think we feel that quality of asking questions matters clearly, and why we are means why quality word actually should be included in asking questions, and why asking questions rightly matters. What do you think about that?
So I have two parts to this question, Shantanu.
Okay.
The first part is a concern, rather. So when people talk of good questions or right questions or quality questions, I have a concern. But Shantanu, I hope you'll agree with me that most of the adults don't ask questions. And a lot of them say, I don't have questions. That's actually wrong. People have a lot of questions. It's just that they don't ask them. Because they have that fear, right? Fear of embarrassment that maybe my question is not a good question. Maybe I have a stupid question. Okay. So this kind of judgment of correctness of a question or quality of a question can push people into a shell and can limit the number of questions which we get to hear, right, in a classroom or as society in general. So I am a little concerned about using the idea of quality of questioning and so on. Maybe I'd rather call it the art of questioning, and I would rather appreciate everybody to fine tune the art of questioning. And I would rather say, can we improve our question? Can we ask questions and step by step, can we get better at it? Can we celebrate our questioning? Can we celebrate the questions which we are already asking? And can we improve and try to go one step better? Right? On Monday, I ask some questions. On Tuesday, can I ask even better questions? On Wednesday, can I ask even better questions? And can I be happy with the questions which I'm already asking? Because if I'm not happy with the questions which I'm asking, I might stop asking questions. Because if I'm not careful, I might easily start judging myself. And once I get into that self-doubt, the curiosity dies. So it's very important that I don't judge my questions and I celebrate my questions and I only try to improve the questions. So then comes the second part, because then comes the question, okay, what do you mean by improve a question? So there I would say, after I ask a question, can I ask myself, what am I trying to achieve through this question? Am I able to probe some truth through this question? Am I able to probe truth through this question? Or am I able to build on truth through this question? Or am I able to get an alternate to truth through the question? Am I able to probe? Am I able to clarify? Probing, clarifying, building on the truth, getting alternate truth. So what am I trying to achieve through the question, right? So there was something which I knew before questioning, and there's something else which I have after questioning. So how has the questioning contributed to? If the questioning is able to contribute, like if I'm able to build more conviction, I know something already, but now I believe it deeper because of my question. Or I know something already, but now I'm clearer about what I know already. Or there's something which I already know already, but now I got a new perspective around that. So if these things are happening, then that's a good question. But if I ask questions just for the sake of asking questions, and if that questioning is not contributing, maybe I would want to fine tune my question so that that questioning can contribute to my knowledge or to my emotions or to my overall quality of life and learning. If there's a contribution to my overall quality of life and learning, then I would say, hey, that's a good question.
Okay. So what is about actually Socratic questions? How it is different from the normal questioning method? So what do you think about that?
So Shantanu, there are various styles of questioning. All of them are pretty.
Can you please explain what are the types and how students here?
One at once, I'll go into it. First, let me elaborate about Socratic questioning. But I would like to first qualify that the various styles of questioning, and each style of questioning has value of its own, much like you have different fruits or different vegetables. But Socratic questioning is probably the king of all questioning and has its own special value. And the beauty of Socratic questioning is, see, Socrates had one thing, that he didn't believe in one-shot questions. That is, I ask one question and I'm done with it. So, you ask me a question, I give you an answer, and you probe it. For example, you asked what is the beauty of Socratic question, and I said there are various styles of question. Then again, you counter me saying, hey, what are those various styles of question?
Yeah.
So you're able to dive a little deeper, and so the way Socratic questioning happens is like, badminton, when two players are having a rally continuously. So you ask me a question, I give you an answer, you counter it, or you ask a follow-up question. Then again I answer. Again you ask me a follow-up question. Again I answer. You ask me a follow-up question. And the two things which, the various things which can happen in a Socratic dialogue, but broadly speaking, there are two beautiful things which can happen. Again, the various things, but I'm giving you two major things right now. One is, you might be able to rigorously probe the quality of the argument. Like I'm arguing, let's say you argue that questioning is fundamental. I can probe the quality of that argument. Is it really fundamental? Why do you call it fundamental? What if it is fundamental? Why should I care if it is fundamental? So I can go into the depth of something, and I can probe the quality of your argument, right? So how careful, what do I mean by quality of argument? Like, what if I say that everybody who wears a white colored shirt is a bad fellow, and Shantanu who wore a white colored shirt is a bad fellow? I've given a reason, but that's a poor reason, right? So, because then you might ask, like, what do you mean by a bad fellow? Can you give me a definition of a bad fellow? That's Socratic probing.
Yeah.
Even before you conclude, I would ask, give me a definition. So, Socratic questioning can help you probe the quality of your reason, right? So, that rigor or depth can come in. That is one nice aspect of Socratic questioning. One more is you can have parallel truths or you can have alternate perspectives. We may have one view of looking at something, but there are so many other ways of looking at something. So that alternate view paths or parallel views can come in through Socratic questioning. And one more thing is whatever truth you already have, you can bring in more depth or you can bring in more rigor into that. So these are, I think, two broader. So more breadth and more depth, I think, can come in through Socratic questioning. Then, so before I talk about various styles of questioning, I want to point all the viewers to a survey paper, a research paper written by M.D. Gall, I think in 1970s on various styles of questioning. So types of questions, I think this is a survey paper written by M.D. Gall. So in that he gives, I think, 11 to 12 different ways of questioning.
Okay.
So he gives classification of questioning, M.D. Gall. So by reading that research paper, you can get various kinds of questioning. So what used to happen in the 1960s, Shantanu, is there were a lot of researchers who were interested in understanding the kinds of questions which teachers ask in a classroom. So there were 11 or 12 different ways of categorizing the questions which teachers ask in a classroom. So one way of categorizing is Socratic questioning. Another way of categorizing is Bloom's questioning. According to Bloom's taxonomy, there are 6 different kinds of questions you could ask. Then there is a person called Guzac. So when you're trying to ask questions to understand a passage, right? There's a reading passage given to you. You're reading a book and you want to understand the material of the book. There are kinds of questions you can ask to understand the contents of the book for reading comprehension. So Guzac's questioning can be useful. You're reading a social studies textbook. You want to understand the soul, you're trying to understand human society and so on. Schreber's questioning can be very, very useful while, understanding that. So, and again, Dave Ulrich has some very interesting questions around leadership sustainability. As a leader, you're trying to, bring a lot of, reforms. So why are you bringing those reforms? How will those reforms sustain? As in, will you do it for 3 weeks, celebrate it, and then leave it and bring something else in the 4th week? Then there's no fun, right? I mean, you start something, you leave it, you're not going to achieve the dividends. So Dave Ulrich has some questions to ask. So then again, when you talk of startups, Y Combinator has some questions, right? You look at those questions and through those questions, you get clarity around your startup. So there are various styles of questioning which have emerged basis the context. And all those questions can be very useful in those specific contexts. So, and I think one reason why we as humans are lucky right now, one reason why we as humans are very lucky right now is I think we're sitting on about 2000 years of questioning. So many people have already asked very interesting questions and they've already categorized it. And when you read the books and research papers, you have them ready. All you have to do is pick up those questions and ask those questions, and that gives you a lot of clarity around what you're doing. You have cheat sheets of questioning. I hope I've answered your question.
So Tarun, when you have started actually asking questions, means can you tell me more about your studentship and when actually you have started questioning fundamentally to yourself, to the teachers? Obviously, means from our childhood we are very genius to ask questions, isn't it? We are very impulsive to ask questions, and throughout the years actually it is missed. It is just diminishing the level of asking questions. So in your personal life actually what are the scenario actually means asking questions, and from what stage actually you are intending to ask the questions? Fine, because personally, if I am saying my personally means my mother says, okay, from the early childhood, from the 6 to 7 years, okay, I'm asking question very randomly, means why sun is like that, okay, why tree is like that, okay, what is the food that tree takes? Fine. So many the question actually I don't know what to ask question at that point of time. I don't know ki how to ask questions, and no one has told me ki this is the way you can ask this one. So it is very fundamental inside the human brain to ask question, to express the curiosity, isn't it? Okay. So what is the particular time actually you can remember, yeah, or your family member has told you ki from what point of time actually you have started a question asking consciously? Okay.
So Shantanu, just like you or just like any other human being, I'm pretty sure I asked a lot of questions as a
Yeah.
toddler and as a young child. Yeah. So there are two interesting things I'd like to share. As a toddler, I'm sure I asked a lot of questions, much like any other human. But two very interesting things I'd like to share. One is, I think, as a child, um, that element of wonder was in me, and I'm pretty sure it's in most kids as well. Just that it has been nurtured by teachers and it has been nurtured by parents, and maybe I was lucky enough to get that nurturing as a child. So I would wonder about why things are the way they are, and when you wonder, right, you're not really looking for answers. You're just wondering. You just enjoy the question. It's like how you enjoy a mango. You just enjoy the question. If you get an answer, that's good. You don't get an answer, it's still good.
Yeah.
So when you wonder, you're nourishing your brain, right? And slowly those neural connections in your brain get formed, and again, it leads to better models getting built in your brain. That element of wonder was definitely with me as a child, and it stayed on even as I grew up. I always wondered, okay, let's say when I was studying chemistry, I was like, for me to understand, it looks so tough. It looks like way too much of detail, way too many exceptions. How did somebody even find that? If for me to understand it is this challenging, how did somebody even discover this? How did somebody get this idea? I was wondering. And then I would buy so many textbooks. I would go to British Library, get a lot of books, and I would try to read, hoping that somewhere, there are answers to this. And again, when I say wonder, right, I'm not really looking for answers to my questions, but I'm fascinated by some of these things. And I only know that, okay, what I know is just the tip of the iceberg. There's probably something which I'm missing. So when you talk of curiosity, I think curiosity is not just about questioning. Curiosity for me is that drive or that hunger where you know that maybe what I know is just the tip of the iceberg and there's so much more for us to uncover, and it could be exciting to uncover that, right? So when you know that it's exciting to uncover that, that's when you start reading books. That's when you start talking to people. Like, I'm pretty sure you have that drive and you want to know about questioning, which is why you invited me for this conversation. And I'm sure you're inviting many more wonderful people to conversations on questioning. So for me, I think it's about that wonder and it's about that drive, right? It's a lot more than questioning. It's something more emotional, I would say. And the second part, Shantanu, is when I started meeting a lot of thinkers. I started understanding the patterns of the grammars of the question. How are they connecting the words or sentences to ask questions? Like, one of the persons was like asking questions like, who decides questions? Who decides what the child has to do? Who decides what an Indian voter is supposed to do? So for me, that who decides question is a very powerful question because it challenges authority, right? Especially in a patriarchal society like India, in a largely feudal society like India, right? So certain sections decide a lot of things for people. You don't really enjoy that kind of freedom if you're not careful. So in a feudal society like India, who decides questions are very important. So one lawyer used to ask a lot of these questions when I used to meet him. So I kind of picked up this who decides questions from him. Or another style of questioning is, if you say that questioning is fundamental, what would you then do to improve questioning? This style of questioning, again, I liked. If A, then blah, 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 blah. So that, you state the assumption and then you ask the question. So that again is a very interesting grammar of a question. So I think at the age of 20, 21, when I started meeting a lot of thinkers, I tried fine-tuning the grammars of my questions. And again, at the age of, say, 26, 27, I started paying more attention to my emotions when I question. I started paying attention to emotions of people when they question. So that led to a different level of appreciating questions. So this to me is the evolution of questions. Me wondering as a child, grammars of questioning as an early adult, and then appreciating the emotions of people and appreciating the diversity of perceptions around questions among different people, the socio-cultural perspectives around questioning that happened at a later stage. And I wish this happened earlier. Nobody exposed me to these when I was a kid. Now I'm trying to do it to my students, but yeah, for me it happened quite later.
So Tarun, yeah, nice, interesting, and so can you remind the life means before asking questions consciously? Means is there any point part of the life in your personal, okay, is there any part of the life where you have no questions and something like that, is there anything?
So Shantanu, if you talk to any child who's had a decent childhood, it'll be very difficult to recall a time when you didn't ask questions, because kids ask a hell lot of questions. So rather, I think a question to ask people is, at what age did your questioning decline? If at all it declined in people. But
Yeah.
most people, I think, for whatever they can recall, they would have asked a lot of questions as kids, unless they were raised in terrible environments where the parents or the people would have suppressed
Yeah.
the questioning. Even questioning is
So
very
you are
biologically, questioning comes to us very biologically, in my opinion. Because as a baby, you're supposed to figure out how this world works, because you're supposed to survive in this world. So the curiosity, I mean, in my opinion, that curiosity is fundamental to animals. If you look at pups, pups bite a lot, they lick a lot. Because again, that's their way of figuring out how the world works. Or even babies, they break things, they move around, they touch a lot of things. That's curiosity, because as a baby, you're trying to figure out how the world works. So that's very fundamental to existence of any sentient being, not just humans.
Tarun, you are involved with various students, okay, and you see the thinking style, you see the as you have said, ki you are looking for the grammar of their thinking, fine, and you are looking for the infrastructure of their thinking, how the mechanism works, how they are thinking in their way. So, how can you classify the students specifically, if I may say, regarding the curiosity, regarding the asking question ability? So how can you classify the students? I mean, so what are the categories actually students there are?
This is a very good question you asked, Shantanu, and I think all educators have to ask this question. And let me tell you what comes to my mind immediately, but I'm pretty sure I may have better answers later, but I'll tell you something interesting which comes to my mind right now. So there are kids uh, who have questions, but who have scars of the past, so they don't ask them, right? So they have that fear of judgment, so they don't ask questions. That's one category. So that beats spontaneity, right? So, and there's so much which can happen through spontaneity, and that possibility is lost out in kids who do not have that safety. If you go through Maslow's hierarchy of needs in psychology, safety is level 2 as per Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So wherever people do not have that emotional safety, they don't ask questions even though they have them. They feel they're blank, but they don't ask. So that to me is one category. So what do you do? What do you do with those kids? You create that sense of safety in them, and once you create that sense of safety, questions start, coming out. And then there's a second category of kids who do a lot of imitation questioning. Imitation questioning is they see grammars of questioning and they just imitate the same grammars. Again, let me break imitation questioning also into two kinds. Let me say word imitation and structure imitation. Word imitation is, they see Shantanu ask a lot of why questions. They also stick a why before everything and say, why does a bird fly? Why does a dog bark? Why this happens? How does this happen? So they just stick some words together and create questions, which is okay, but there can be better questions. And then there's structure imitation. So the kids who don't ask questions, the kids who experience a kind of judgment around asking questions, it's category 1. Category 2 is the ones who imitate words while asking questions. And category 3 is the ones who imitate structures when they ask questions.
Okay.
Like I told you, right? If this happens, then what? Who decides? These are structures which get imitated, which is nice. But for me, I think the kids whom I really enjoy working with, and it takes a lot of education before they can get to level 4. This doesn't come that naturally, as what I've seen, is when you ask original questions. For example, when you ask what are the categories of questioning in children, I don't think you're just imitating a structure here. I think Shantanu is asking this question because a lot of thought has gone into it. Because Shantanu is like, okay, if all the kids are put into different buckets, and if each bucket has a different need, can I make a different program as per that bucket and help all the kids in developing that questioning? So there's a lot of thought which has gone into that question.
Yeah.
So the thoughtful questioning for me is the last kind where you're wondering a lot. There's a lot of thought process just going in, and that leads to synthesis of a question. So this would be my 4 buckets of questions.
Okay. So as you have said, ki, means that there are some kind of students, okay, who are just fearing about asking questions. Okay. So what are the 3 ways? What are your 3 tips to develop their curiosity? Okay. Means that the students are not asking anything due to the fear of what we can say ki, fear of judging. Fine. Okay, ki, this question is may not be right or that question may not be right for like that. So how can you develop their curiosity actually, and what you are looking for?
See, point number 1, you need to recognize that questioning comes to us biologically.
Yeah.
We wonder. I mean, we may not have linguistic questioning, but that element of wonder.
Can you please tell me biological means what is the real connection actually? Means asking questions and curiosity at our brain. So can you please?
So as I mentioned, any baby, right, not just a human baby, has that curiosity. I'm not talking of questioning, but curiosity, where you're wondering about things and how things happen. You may not have the language, but you're wondering. Without language, also you're wondering, right? So that comes biologically. But if someone is not questioning, there is a sense of safety which is breached.
Okay.
Now, if a sense of safety is breached, 2 things. One is I want to appreciate the child a lot. I want to improve the child's self-esteem. Tell the child why the child is special, why the child is talented, tell the things of the child which I can discover. And 2, counsel the adults who are taking care of the child. Because possibly the adults are telling a lot of things which is denting the self-esteem of the child, because otherwise usually kids ask a lot of questions. So there's possibly some negative influence going onto the child somewhere. So I'd want to find out what that is and counsel the adults to stop that negative influence. One, as I said, is to appreciate the child. Second is to stop that negative influence which might be coming in this part 1. Part 2 is to discuss topics which the child is fascinated about, which the child enjoys discussing. And part 3 is, once I've appreciated the child, once I've started a conversation around what the child is interested in, I ask a few questions. I make the child enjoy those questions. And I tell the child, it's okay, you just have to guess. Cook up your own answer. Give me a wrong answer. I tell the child, give me a wrong answer. I don't ask the child for right answers, because then the child starts cooking up answers without a fear of judgment. Because I said I need a wrong answer. And then slowly I ask the child, hey, now why don't you ask me questions? I ask you questions so far. Now why don't you ask me questions? Then the child starts asking questions. So it's an art to create that element of safety for a child, to let the child know, hey, this is a nice person.
Nice.
I want to hang around this person. And once you create that element of safety, then slowly it's like level by level nudging, as I said, right? You talk about a topic which the child likes, then you ask questions and you tell the child, no, give me wrong answers. Then you tell the child, okay, now you ask me questions, I'll give you wrong answers.
Yeah.
So without realizing the child ends up asking questions. I think this is a great way to do that.
Yeah. So Tarun, means my question is that means for a student actually. Okay. So how we can first encourage, means the student is not asking anything. Okay. And as you have said, first of all we need to mention actually there are no negative influences. We have to make sure that fine. And secondly, we have to give them a comfort zone. Okay. And your trick actually really appreciating first say me a wrong answer. Okay, so this will push the student to ask the question, isn't it? Okay, so that's very fine. So if we look at the classroom, okay, so there are only 10 to 20% of students in the academics who are asking questions, who ask the question. Fine. So how can we democratize this? Means how can we inspire them to ask the question? What do you think actually? Means what are the 2 to 3 ways to inspire them to ask questions?
So point number 1, as I said, there are kids who have this challenges with emotional safety. I just answered what you could do to create that emotional safety for them. Now there could be kids who ask questions related to video games or related to sport or something, but may not ask questions in a classroom. Or they're probably kids. So first is the safety. because once you create the safety, the kids may ask questions. Second is the kids who don't ask questions in an academic setup, but ask questions in a play setup. So there, maybe start by listening to their questions around their interest, and then gradually get them to ask questions around the textbook. That would be a second thing I would say. And the third and the most important thing is show them the value of learning. Why do we learn this subject? Why are we, having this textbook? What are we trying to understand through this textbook? What's the purpose of the subject? If you can show the value and purpose of whatever they're learning, then you have the student buy-in. So unfortunately, today the student is told that you have to settle down in life financially. This is why you should study, and the only reason why a parent wants a child to study is to earn money, and that doesn't work with kids. So if you can show the value and purpose of learning, if you can show the value and purpose of learning, I think kids would start asking a lot more questions in the classroom. One reason why they don't ask questions is they don't see any point in doing it. It seems very dry to them. If we can change that, I think we can expect a lot more questions in a class.
Yeah. So means lastly but not least, actually, Tarun, means question asking framework in the education system currently is really the need of the hour, isn't it? And whatever we have the inside the school, okay, means the product building framework. Okay, so this is a byproduct of the industrial era, isn't it? Okay, so in this entrepreneurial era, actually, we need question answer framework to ignite the minds, okay, to be ready for the future, uncertain future. Okay, so is it, I think it is really important to note that the student should ask the question, okay, fundamentally. So yeah, lastly I can say ki, uh, what are your view, okay, means how to improve the way of asking question.
So, see, I'm pretty sure there are various programs out there which can help in improving the quality of questioning. We ourselves have developed a learning by questioning curriculum. But I feel there's a lot of work to be done in the emotional domain and to be done at an ecosystem level. There are a lot of anxieties which are to be addressed. A lot of anxieties to be addressed before we can pave way for questioning. First, the teacher anxiety. What if the child asks me a question for which I do not know the answer? So there's an art of saying I don't know. There's an art of saying I don't know. So the art of saying I don't know has to be taught to teachers. And the school management's support of a teacher. If a teacher says I don't know, and if the parents are going to judge the teacher for saying I don't know, and if the management takes them to task for saying I don't know, if their qualifications are questioned, and if their mental health is declining because of saying I don't know, then the teachers are going to go in a shell, and the teachers are going to stop the kids from asking questions. So creating a sense of safety among teachers itself around questioning, I think, is the most important thing to do. To again, one problem is a lot of parents question the qualifications of a teacher. Anytime when a parent questions the qualification of the teacher, I ask the parent, come teach these kids for 3 days, you'll run away. I literally tell the parents this way: who are you to question the qualification of a teacher? Who are you? So I think that kind of toxic attitude of parents has to go. You have to create a sense of safety among teachers. I mean, there is a person who's actually teaching right now. That person is interested in teaching students. You don't like that person, take your kid away from that school. Put your kid in some other school. But who are you to question the qualification of a teacher, and the management has appointed a teacher, and when you have taken an admission in that school? I'm not saying that the teacher should not improve. I'm saying it is wrong to question the qualifications of a person who's trying to do a job. You want to give feedback to the person, you give feedback. That's okay. But it's wrong to question their qualifications.
So as student,
so Santanu, let me just complete. One is you want to create that sense of safety among teachers, because unless you create that sense of safety, the teacher is going to crush the students' question. Point one. Point two, you want to create a sense of safety among parents also around questioning. Because when the kid asks a lot of questions at home, the parent doesn't know how to handle it. The parent again believes that if I don't have answers, this kid will think I'm an idiot, and the kid will go, looking for answers somewhere else. I mean, Again, the art of saying I don't know, the parents have to know. And secondly, if your kid has a question, doesn't mean that you have to spoon feed an answer. You can teach your child where to look for the answers, and you can teach your child to go look for the answers. You don't have to answer your child's questions. You just have to encourage, you have to appreciate the kid for asking the question. You don't have to literally answer that question. So how to handle a child's question has to be taught to teachers, has to be taught to parents, and institutions have to be taught how to counsel the parents and teachers, and how to give that backing to parents and teachers. Because especially teachers need a lot of backing from the management if they have to, encourage the students' questions, because there'll be a lot of challenges which the teachers will have if they have to allow questions. So unless the institution backs up the teachers, it's very tough. So institutions knowing what is their role, teachers knowing what is their role, parents knowing what is their role, and last, students being counseled around questioning, where the students are told that, look, don't expect to be spoon-fed answers to your questions. There are a lot of questions where you yourself have to find the answers. Nobody is going to help you with the answers. So that counseling for students is very important, and for them to know that it's okay to just enjoy the question, even if you don't have an answer to it, because in research, one question only leads to 2 or 3 more. And in research, we have more questions than answers. And to counsel the students by saying that in the research community, there are a lot of things which are not yet figured out. There's so many open questions. Unfortunately, because the teachers have not gone to good universities, the teachers were not told about open questions.
Yeah.
Mathematics and every subject, there are a lot of open questions for which nobody in this world has answers to. There are questions which are unanswered for the last 200, 300 years, even though people have been trying to find answers to them, like the P versus NP problem in computer science. So if the students are counseled on how they have to approach questions, and how to, the emotions around questions, the anxiety around questioning, and so on, the parents, teachers, and institutions, if all the 4 players are counseled and told about their role of questioning and the emotions around questioning, I think then we'll have an ecosystem which is conducive for questioning. Once you have an ecosystem which is conducive for questioning, you can help all of them in improving the quality of their questioning. But even before you train people on improving the quality of questioning, I think you'd want to improve the ecosystem and make the ecosystem more conducive for questioning. This is what I think I have to say.
Yeah. So long story short means one thing is very clear: key to improve the asking ability of questions for the students. Okay, you need to support them mentally, support them emotionally. Okay, so that is really a very good suggestion from your side. Okay, key first, support them to ask question. Okay, encourage them to ask question. That is really important to do anything before that. Yes. So yeah, thank you, Tarun, so much. Okay, so and I'm looking so much of discussions with you specifically. Okay, so yeah, we will set up another discussion with you. Okay, fine.
My pleasure, Shantanu.